All right guys, out here doing another kind of lure test. Today it's not a Japanese lure that I'm doing. This is actually a wake bait made by Fish Lab Tackle. Something that really intrigued me about this particular wake bait, this is what it looks like fresh out of the package, is that it looks very similar to the old Strike King wake shad, which if you guys know anything about wake baits, that's one of the very most popular wake baits that there ever was, and now it's discontinued. Literally, you can't even find them on eBay, and when you do find them, they sell for a high amount. So this is a really interesting looking wake bait. I've already kind of seen it in the water and it works really, really well. So today, just gonna be out here. I wouldn't call it great wake bait conditions, but we're gonna go out here and we're gonna fish this and give it a whirl and see if we can't catch a couple fish on the new Fish Lab wake bait. I made a small modification to the bait, and really all I did was change out the treble hooks, which is basically what I do with every lure fresh out of the package, is put good hooks on it. And I actually added a feather to this one to really make it look kind of like a shad. Not sure if you guys saw that, but that fish chased that guy right from under that tree. Watch the whole thing. I tell you one thing I really love about a wake bait in general, and it seems to be especially true with this wake bait, is that it just has a tremendous drawing power. The couple of fish that I've caught on it today, you know, I've actually seen them come from a ways away to hit it. And so I love fishing baits that have drawing power like that. You know, a jerk bait is another one of those baits. A spy bait is another one of those baits. A big glide bait is another one of those baits. But the thing that I love about this is that not only does it have a drawing power, but you also get a lot more bites on it in comparison to like a glide bait, which has a lot of drawing power, but you know, conditions really have to be perfect in order for them to eat it. So that was a really cool bite and a really cool feature of this bait. A wake bait is just one of those baits that I think a whole lot of guys actually don't fish. It's a bait that a lot of us know about. It's a bait that even a lot of us own, but I feel like there's a lot of options out there when it comes to a topwater bait, and I think that a wake bait is just something that guys don't always pick up. They don't always fish. You know, a lot of guys are gonna fish a buzz bait or a whopper plopper or other baits like that. The thing that I really like about a wake bait is that it can work in situations where no other topwater will work. You know, it kind of has a real subtle, natural action just below the surface. It doesn't create a ton of commotion, but it also has an extreme amount of drawing power. So I really feel like guys should fish a wake bait a lot more than they actually do. Not a giant bass, but front hook and back hook. Love that. Easy, buddy. Now, I'm actually currently using the 4-inch model of this particular bait. I think it comes in like 4 colors or so. This one here kind of really looks like a shad in my opinion, and there's shad in this lake, that's why I picked it up. I also really like this particular color right here. It has a little bit of chartreuse in it, and it just looks like a bait that could kill for clear water smallmouth. And so I picked up one of these as well. As I talked about earlier, I kind of dressed them up with a little feather on the back. I don't think you always need to do that. I just wanted to in this situation, so I did. It doesn't skip. Something else that's really unique about this particular bait, this wake bait by Fish Lab, is that with just about any lure out there, I don't like to just reel the thing in at a steady retrieve all the time. I like to impart a little bit of action into the bait. Sometimes I'm gonna reel this, I'm gonna kill it maybe when it comes over across the log, or I might twitch it a couple of times. And something that I've noticed with this lure is when you're reeling across the water and you kill it, it actually kind of darts to the side. You know, and that darting action is something that can really trigger a bass to biting, especially if that fish is simply just following that bait, which you're gonna see that a lot with swim baits and glide baits, but you can also see that with a wake bait. If a fish is following it, if you all of a sudden kind of just twitch that bait, it's gonna shoot to the side and bam, that's gonna cause a reaction strike. Something very interesting about this wake bait I haven't seen with a lot. So I don't normally do this with a wake bait, but I guess it should be known that you can actually kind of walk the dog with this particular bait. If you just twitch it, just like you would a spook style bait, it literally just twitches. It goes back and forth like this. And so that might come in hand really in a situation where if you're kind of target casting, maybe you're just casting along a rocky bank, but maybe there's a stump in the water, you can actually cast this bait, slow it down, and twitch it kind of like a spook across the water. That way it keeps that lure next to that stump or next to that object for a little bit longer period of time, which might help you to get a little bit more bites. Something else that I really like, and this is something that you don't find with every wake bait out there on the market, is I can fish this wake bait extremely slow and extremely fast, and it has a great action. There are definitely days when bass want a slow presentation more than anything, and I see that a lot with a wake bait especially. You know, one of the best areas to fish the wake bait is kind of in that clearer water, sometimes even still water. What I have right here, I have some very still water. I don't have a lot of breeze, and sometimes in that situation, one of the best things to do is fish a wake bait extremely slow. And as you can see, you can fish this bait extremely slow, and it just has a great side-to-side action to it. Now, the other thing is fishing it fast. This is probably even more important because there's a lot of wake baits that you can fish pretty slow, but there's not a ton that you can fish extremely fast without them kind of blowing out of the water. I can cast this bait and literally reel it about as fast as I want to, and it's not blowing out of the water. It really still has a great action to it. This is something that I find to be extremely important whenever I'm fishing a wake bait around spotted bass and smallmouth bass. Sometimes speed kills when it comes to those particular species. Sometimes they really like something coming extremely fast across the water, and they actually won't hit it if you're fishing it very slow. So something that's very unique about this bait, you can fish it extremely fast and extremely slow, and obviously anywhere in between. That is not something you find with every wake bait. You know, when you make a really long cast with this bait, the other thing that I have found with certain wake baits is the wake bait will actually dive too far under the surface of the water, and I really like to keep it just below that surface, kind of making that V wake. Something I've noticed with this, I can make a really long cast with it, and I can still reel that bait pretty fast, and it's not diving down. It's staying right there on the surface, exactly doing what I want it to do. In case you guys are a little bit interested in the combo that I'm using today, it's actually my typical topwater rod. So I have a 7-foot medium action rod. I have 30-pound braid, a 7:1 gear ratio reel, and I typically always have a small leader. I don't think this is absolutely necessary with the wake bait, but I do have a small leader. As you may or may not be able to see, this is about 1.5 feet long of 20-pound monofilament line. And so the only reason I like that with the wake bait is it's just something that gives me a little extra give. Like I said, I fish for a lot of smallmouth, and sometimes they dive right at the boat. And so if you're using straight braid, the only give is in your rods. If your rod is kind of at that maximum bending ability, then I like to have just a little bit of give with that monofilament. You could throw straight braid, you could throw straight monofilament. Because you reel this bait in, you could probably throw it on straight fluorocarbon if you really wanted to. It may keep the bait down a little bit, but if you kept your rod up like this, you're not gonna have any problems with it diving at all. All in all, guys, I can really see this particular weight bait kind of being a game changer, just because to me, it is so similar to that old Strike King wake bait that people absolutely love. I mean, it has a very similar action, kind of that tighter wiggle. You can fish it at fast pace, slow pace, everything in between. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this review of this particular bait. If you want to pick up one of these, I'll actually leave a link in the description for you guys. I really like doing these kind of more odd lure reviews and things like that. If you guys want to watch a lure that I did on the bounty fish lure, a very unique topwater, you can click on this link right here. Please give this video a thumbs up, comment below, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.